Food is something we interact with every single day. It's comfort, it's celebration, it's routine. Most of us never stop to think that a meal could be the last thing we ever eat. But history and the medical record say otherwise. Sometimes the danger comes from excess. Sometimes it comes from carelessness. Sometimes it comes from trusting that the people preparing your food understood what was at stake. In each of these cases, something went wrong in a way that nobody expected, and the cost was a human life. Here are 5 of the most bizarre deaths caused by food. King Adolf Fredrik of Sweden, February 12, 1771. It was the evening of February 12, 1771, in Stockholm, Sweden. The man sitting at the head of the table was King Adolf Fredrik, 60 years old, the reigning monarch of Sweden. He had been born in 1710 in Gottorp, in what is now northern Germany, and had held the Swedish throne since 1751. But holding the throne and holding power were two very different things under Adolf Fredrik. Real authority belonged to the Riksdag of the Estates, the parliamentary body that had kept Swedish kings on a short leash for decades. The king was, in every practical sense, a figurehead. By most accounts, he seemed to accept this. He was a gentleman, warm with his family, genuinely liked by those around him. He spent his free hours doing woodworking, making snuff boxes, studying astronomy. He was not a man who fought the world. He lived quietly inside the limits placed on him, and he ate well. What he ate that particular evening in 1771 has been retold in Swedish histories ever since. The meal began with lobster, caviar, sauerkraut, kippers, and champagne. For most people, that would have been more than enough. For the king, it was only the beginning. For dessert, he was served semla, a sweet cardamom bun soaked in hot milk, rich and dense and filling by design. It was his favorite. He ate 14 servings of it. 14. Shortly after the meal, the king collapsed. He was gone before the night was over. Court physicians at the time attributed his death to digestive failure brought on by overeating. Modern historians have not all agreed. Some have suggested stroke or heart failure as more likely explanations, and the Wikipedia article on Adolf Fredrik notes plainly that accounts of the meal being responsible for his death are considered propaganda by modern writers. What the body actually failed from that night, no one can now say with certainty. But the Swedish nickname survived all of it. In Sweden, Adolf Fredrik is still known as Kungen som åt ihjäl sig, the king who ate himself to death. The irony of his story runs deeper than the meal itself. Adolf Fredrik had spent 2 full decades as one of the most powerless monarchs in Europe. He tried twice to reclaim authority from Parliament and fell short both times. His own son Gustav III would wait until 1772, the year after his father's death, to seize absolute power in a military coup, accomplishing in days what his father had spent a reign failing to do. The son rewrote Swedish history. The father is remembered for dessert: 14 servings of semla in hot milk, lobster, caviar, sauerkraut, kippers, champagne. A feast that his body, at 60 years old, either could not survive or simply could not handle on top of whatever else was already failing inside him. The cause may be debated. The outcome is not. On February 12, 1771, a reigning European monarch sat down to dinner and never stood up again. His body was laid to rest at Riddarholm Church in Stockholm on July 30, 1771. The semla is still eaten across Sweden today, especially in the weeks before Lent, when bakeries sell them by the millions. Most people who eat one probably don't know the story attached to it. But the story hasn't gone anywhere. It sits quietly behind every cardamom bun, a 250-year-old reminder that even the foods we love most can carry an edge we never see coming. AJ, Brussels, Belgium, October 1st, 2008. It was the evening of October 1st, 2008, in Brussels, Belgium. A 20-year-old university student came home after school and heated up a plate of leftover spaghetti with tomato sauce. He had cooked the pasta 5 days earlier and left it sitting on the kitchen counter at a room temperature. He put it in the microwave, warmed it through, and ate it. In the medical literature where his case would later be documented, he is identified only by his initials, AJ. Within 30 minutes, his body told him something was wrong. He had been on his way out to a sports activity when the symptoms hit. Headache, abdominal pain, nausea. He turned back almost immediately and made it home, where he began vomiting. He vomited for several hours. Around midnight, he had 2 episodes of watery diarrhea. He took no medication. He drank water. At some point after midnight, he fell asleep. The next morning, his parents went to wake him. He didn't respond. When they went into his room, he was already gone. Investigators later estimated the time of death at around 4 in the morning, roughly 10 hours after he sat down to eat. The case was written up 3 years later, in 2011, in the Journal of Clinical Microbiology by Naranjo and colleagues. What they found in the leftover pasta explained what had happened, though the explanation was not simple. The spaghetti was heavily contaminated with Bacillus cereus, a bacterium that produces a toxin called cereulide. This is the organism linked to what some food safety researchers call fried rice syndrome, named for the fact that starchy cooked foods, rice and pasta in particular, create ideal conditions for the bacteria to grow when left unrefrigerated. The name makes it sound almost trivial. What it can do is not. Cereulide is heat stable. Putting the pasta in the microwave changed nothing. The toxin was already there, already at full strength, and warming the food did not touch it. By the time AJ ate, the spaghetti contained cereulide at a measured concentration of 14.8 micrograms per gram of pasta. According to the published case study, that was nearly 10 times the concentration found in a previously documented contaminated pasta dish. 5 days at the room temperature had allowed the bacterium to multiply and produce toxin at levels the researchers described as being within the upper range of anything seen in food poisoning cases on record. Cereulide works by attacking mitochondria, the structures inside cells responsible for producing energy. In severe cases, the damage cascades into liver failure. The autopsy, delayed 5 days because of procedural reasons, found moderate liver necrosis, significant necrosis through layers of the colon, and congestion in the lungs consistent with acute cardiac failure. Because of the autopsy delay, investigators could not pin down an exact cause of death with certainty, but they were direct in their conclusions. The cereulide in the pasta was the most likely explanation for what killed an otherwise healthy young man in a matter of hours. The 2011 case study noted that AJ's death represented only the 5th documented fatal case attributed to cereulide. 5. In the entire medical record up to that point, this had happened only 4 times before. What stays with this case is not the rarity, it's the ordinariness. Leftover pasta sits in kitchens everywhere. People reheat it without a second thought, and nearly all of them are fine. AJ was not fine because of 5 days and a bacterium that left no trace on the food itself, no smell, no visible change, no warning of any kind. The spaghetti looked exactly the way spaghetti looks. It was 20 years old when he ate it, and he was 20 years old when it killed him. It was the afternoon of March 30th, 2017, on the campus of Sacred Heart University in Fairfield, Connecticut. The occasion was a pancake-eating contest, organized by the Kappa Delta sorority as a fundraiser during the university's annual Greek Week celebration. Students filled the space. The mood was easy. 20-year-old Caitlin Nelson took her place at the table. Caitlin was a junior studying social work. She was from Clark, New Jersey, the daughter of James Nelson, a Port Authority police officer killed on September 11, 2001, while helping to evacuate people from one of the Twin Towers. Caitlin was 5 years old when her father was gone. She had grown up inside that loss, and somewhere along the way she had turned it outward. By the time she reached Sacred Heart, she was vice president of her sorority's community service group, planning fundraisers, organizing Girl Scout events, and volunteering at the Newtown Resiliency Center, where she mentored children who had lived through the 2012 Sandy Hook school shootings. A close friend later described her as someone who always had a smile, always there for the kids no matter what you asked of her. She was the kind of person who showed up for other people. That afternoon, she had shown up for a pancake contest. Minutes into the competition, Caitlin began to choke. Pancakes, when chewed and mixed with saliva, don't break apart the way most foods do. They compress. They bind together into a thick, cohesive mass, and that mass had lodged in her airway. 2 nursing students in the crowd started life-saving measures immediately. Police and paramedics arrived and took over. When officers reached her, she was not breathing. They described the blockage as a thick glob of pancake paste sitting almost to her teeth. She was airlifted to New York Presbyterian Hospital in New York City. The oxygen deprivation during the choking episode had caused brain damage that doctors called irreversible. Caitlin Nelson was gone on April 2, 2017, 3 days after the contest. Her cause of death was ruled asphyxiation. A candlelight vigil followed on campus. The university mourned, but behind the public grief, a harder set of questions was already forming about the choices that had led to that afternoon. In October 2018, Caitlin's mother, Roseanne Nelson, filed a wrongful death lawsuit against Sacred Heart University in Superior Court in Bridgeport, Connecticut. The suit alleged that the university had approved the contest without investigating whether pancakes were a safe food for the format, had not ensured adequate medical personnel were on hand, and had not considered whether other foods might pose less risk. The filing made a specific point. Unlike ice cream or whipped cream, pancakes turn into a paste when they contact saliva, creating exactly the kind of dense, airway-filling mass that emergency responders had pulled from Caitlin's throat. The family's attorney said the lawsuit was meant to expose the dangers associated with amateur eating contests and to keep another family from enduring the same outcome. The lawsuit was settled in 2020. Caitlin Nelson had spent her entire adult life, short as it was, trying to make things easier for people who were hurting. She had grown up as the daughter of a man who ran toward danger on the worst morning in New York's history and didn't come back. She had channeled that into something, into service, into presence, into the kind of consistent, unglamorous care that doesn't make headlines. She was 20 years old when a pancake eating contest, a few minutes of what was supposed to be fun, took her in the same sudden and senseless way it had taken her father 16 years before. It was a Saturday afternoon, October 16, 2021, at an off-campus rental property on College Avenue in Somerville, Massachusetts. The event was called Play for Pink, an annual breast cancer awareness fundraiser organized by Tufts University student-athletes. Friends had gathered, teammates had gathered, and at some point during the afternoon, a hot dog eating contest began. Madeline Nickbon, known to everyone as Matey, was 20 years old. She was a junior at Tufts, a midfielder on the women's lacrosse team, a biopsychology major who planned to go into medicine. She had grown up in Suffern, New York, where she graduated as president of her high school class of 2019, co-president of the National Honor Society, and a multi-sport athlete who carried a grade point average above 4.0. Her lacrosse coach from Suffern, John Callanan, later remembered her simply a sweetheart, just a really special kid. At Tufts, her teammates called her Scooter. She had a pregame dance ritual that the team's Instagram page captured and posted. A video of her running between 2 lines of her teammates, clearly mid-shout, clearly in her element. She was the kind of person who made a team feel like something more than a team. The Tufts lacrosse account, in the days after her death, described her as a bright light, a social butterfly, an amazing teammate. These are words that get written about people after they're gone, but by every account from every person who knew her, they were simply accurate. During the hot dog eating contest, Matey choked. First responders were called to the scene and performed extensive life-saving procedures on site. She was taken first to Mount Auburn Hospital in Cambridge, then transferred to Massachusetts General Hospital in Boston. She was gone the following afternoon, Sunday, October 17, 2021, less than 24 hours after she had arrived at a fundraiser to spend a Saturday with her teammates. The grief at Tufts was immediate and total. That Sunday night, approximately 3,000 students, faculty members, and staff gathered at Bellow Field, where the lacrosse team plays its home games, for a candlelight vigil. Candles were placed around her number 2 jerseys. A GoFundMe page for her family raised over $150,000 within days. A hot dog is dense, cylindrical, and doesn't compress the way softer foods do. Eaten too fast, or swallowed before it's adequately chewed, it can seal an airway with very little warning. In the context of an eating contest where speed is the point and stopping feels like losing, The conditions for exactly that kind of error are always present. The crowd, the noise, the momentum of competition, the instinct to keep going. There is very little room between a swallow that works and one that doesn't, and almost no time to recover once the line is crossed. Madi Nikpon had gone to play for Pink because it was the kind of event she went to. She showed up for causes. She showed up for teammates. A former field hockey coach said that when you talked to Madi, you could see the pure love she has for not only self-success, but for ensuring the success and well-being of those around her. She had spent every year of her short life being that person, the one who made the room better, who cheered loudest, who stayed longest. Her teammates wrote afterward that they should all strive to live a little more like Scooter did. 3,000 people stood in the October dark on a lacrosse field and held candles for her, and that number alone says something about the size of the space she left behind. Dr. Canuck Porn, Amy Tangsuan, Disney Springs, Florida, October 5th, 2023. It was the evening of October 5th, 2023, at Raglan Road, an Irish pub inside Disney Springs in Orlando, Florida. Dr. Canuck Porn Tangsuan, known to everyone who cared about her as Amy, was 42 years old. She was a physician from New York, on vacation with her husband Jeffrey Piccolo and his mother. Disney Springs is not the kind of place where people expect things to go wrong. It is bright and managed and full of families on holiday. Amy and Jeffrey had planned the trip carefully, the way people do when they finally carve out time away from work. Amy had severe allergies to dairy and nuts, not the kind that causes mild discomfort, the kind that can kill. She had lived with it for years, and she had learned how to manage it, which meant she asked questions at every restaurant, at every table, before every meal. That evening at Raglan Road, she and Jeffrey told their server about her allergies before ordering. They asked whether the food she was considering was safe. They asked more than once. According to the wrongful death lawsuit Jeffrey Piccolo later filed, the server confirmed the food was free of allergens. After dinner, the group separated. Jeffrey went back to the hotel. Amy went shopping alone through the Disney Springs complex. At some point after she left the restaurant, she collapsed. She was transported to a hospital. She was gone that evening. A medical examiner confirmed her cause of death as anaphylaxis, brought on by elevated levels of dairy and nut in her system. Jeffrey Piccolo filed a wrongful death lawsuit in February 2024 in Florida State Court, naming both Raglan Road and the Walt Disney Parks and Resorts entity. The suit alleged that the restaurant had failed Amy despite being told about her allergies multiple times, and it called for a jury trial. Piccolo sought damages in excess of $50,000 plus legal costs. What happened next drew attention far beyond the courtroom. In August 2024, Disney filed a motion to push the case out of the court system entirely and into private arbitration. The argument Disney made was that Jeffrey Piccolo had agreed to an arbitration clause in the company's terms of use when he created a Disney account to sign up for a 1-month free trial of Disney Plus in 2019. That agreement, Disney said, meant any dispute with the company had to be resolved outside of court. Piccolo's lawyers called the argument preposterous and inane. They said the idea that a free streaming sign-up could permanently strip someone of the right to a jury trial in a wrongful death case borders on the surreal. Legal commentators around the country wrote that Disney was testing contract law in ways it had never been tested before. The public response was sharp and sustained. Within weeks, Disney withdrew the arbitration motion and said the lawsuit could move forward through the courts. But it did not end there. Both sides moved into a discovery process that the judge later designated as complex litigation, a classification that signals a case likely to run for years. Piccolo's legal team has been fighting for restaurant records, prior cleaning logs, personnel files, and communications about past allergen incidents. A doggy bag from Amy's meal that night was preserved and frozen, waiting to be tested for allergens. Disney, for its part, requested 10 years of Amy's medical records and communications from every restaurant the couple visited during their Orlando trip. Amy Tangsuan had spent her career caring for other people. She had navigated her allergies with the discipline and precision you would expect from a physician who understood exactly what was at stake. She asked the right questions. She waited for the right answers. She did everything she was supposed to do, and none of it held. She was 42 years old, and she was gone before Jeffrey made it back to the hotel. The question her husband is still fighting to answer, of who bears responsibility for the failure that killed her, remains, before the courts, unresolved. Food doesn't announce itself as dangerous. It arrives at the table the way it always does, and most of the time it is exactly what it appears to be. But these 5 cases sit at the far edge of what a meal can become, each one a different kind of failure. Excess, neglect, poor design, bad luck, broken trust. The line between an ordinary dinner and a final one can be very thin, and it doesn't always announce itself before it's crossed.